Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are thrilled to have Christopher Tveter, the founder and CEO of SRO Consulting Group. Christopher brings nearly a decade of expertise in revenue operations with experience at companies like Amazon, Dynatrace, and startups like Kessler. Based in Boston, Massachusetts, SRO Consulting Group, founded in 2022, is transforming how start/scale-ups build scalable solutions through RevOps as a service, with a focus on HubSpot CRM. We'll be exploring his founding story, how his business empowers clients in the RevOps space, and his vision for scaling this impact-driven venture. So let's dive right in. Chris, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you, Jay. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure, man. I'm really looking forward to diving in with you a bit. So let's start at the very top for our listeners here, Chris. Take us back to the beginning if you can. What specific problem in the revenue operations landscape really inspired you to start SRO Consulting?
Yeah, great question. As you mentioned, I worked for a couple of larger organizations, Amazon Business, Dynatrace, where you already have your traditional sales/revenue operations set up, and quite often saw how many times issues were arising based off of RevOps/sales ops not being set up properly historically. And so oftentimes we would have to come up with pretty complex workflows or work with a variety of different data sheets and combine them all together to make sure we could actually see trends in products we were selling or what best verticals we could go after. And it just never was data just at the straight tip of our fingertips that we could just basically access and use. And then when I worked with a couple different startups, as you mentioned, Kessler and N1 Health, where I got to set up these processes from scratch myself, where they brought revenue operations in pretty early on into the company, you basically have someone there from the start who can think of, okay, what do we want this to look like when we're trying to report on it 5 years down the line or we're trying to get acquired? When I went from a healthcare startup back to Amazon, and then they kept me on as a consultant and kind of had me speaking to other people in the healthcare industry about what I would do if I was allowed to set up a CRM system or a RevOps department somewhere. I was answering those questions basically just as a friendly thing for one of my previous coworkers, and accidentally started basically consulting on my own and fell into my own company.
I love it. I love it. With that right there, obviously you're in a pretty tight niche here for what you're doing. So walk us through, especially for our listeners who can end up needing your services and coming to work with you here, Chris.
Mhm.
How are you really generating revenue today with SRO Consulting Group? Like as far as the core offer, I know that you have the HubSpot CRM set up, sales process
Mhm.
automation. What exactly is all there for your clients? How is it structured, and what can they expect to go through journey-wise when they're with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually it starts with someone knowing they have a system like HubSpot or they have a sales tool that they're using. They know they can get a lot more out of it, but realistically, they just don't have time to actually dive deeper into it and set it up the way they would want it to function. That's usually how all the projects start. It's much with a smaller project. Listen, we have HubSpot, we have the Sales Hub. We know our sales employees can be using it more, but I have a whole sales department to run. I have people to report to. I don't have time to jump into there. Can you please come in, train the guys on how to use it, set up some automations for us, and basically get that system up and running to its full capabilities? Once that happens, I then often get introduced into their sales process. Okay. What are the stages in each one of their funnels or in the pipelines? And how do they actually do they want a deal or an opportunity to move from one stage to the next? And then we can then say, all right, do you guys have any automation set up to cover half of this? Most of the times it's no, it's all done manually. They don't have it documented. There's no process map. Really, it's just the sales guys doing everything on their own. And then I come in, and basically how I see RevOps or sales ops is, how can I make everyone else's life easier who's using the system? Where can I automate things now, especially with AI? Where can we use AI to plug into a couple of these different scenarios so that your sales guys can focus on selling without having to click on 40 different buttons in the meantime to do the same kind of thing?
Love it. I love it. So really just going in on that consulting side, helping businesses out. And who do you typically see yourself working with most? Who's that ideal client for you right now, Chris?
Yeah, as it comes to organizations, it doesn't really matter. I've worked with everything from probably some of the biggest social media influencers on LinkedIn that you can think of to investment funds, law firms, and your local mom and pop shop around the corner. It really doesn't matter as long as you need a CRM, which 98% of the organizations most likely do. You can pretty much use me and my services. But I primarily work with customers that already have HubSpot or are looking to use HubSpot. I've been a partner with, I think, almost 10 different CRM systems for the past 5 years. And they are, in my humble opinion, the best CRM system that you can currently work with.
Incredible. I love that. On that front, obviously, you're helping so many of your clients on this front here. What's working best for SRO right now as far as that acquisition goes? How are you bringing on new clients consistently, whether it is referrals and word of mouth from your successes, or are you running ads successfully? Are you seeing more on the social media organic side? What does that look like for acquisition for you?
Yeah, great question. Currently, for me, it's actually 98% referral based. So it's people that I've worked for. I take a lot of pride in the service that we provide and really coming in and helping people with their organization, understanding what we're building out too. I don't want to come in and build workflows and then leave you hanging. So the ultimate goal is for us to come in, set it up for you, train you on how to use things, and then to disappear in the background. We can still be there if you need a little bit more technical advice, but we really want you guys to have someone junior internally step up into that role. HubSpot is so easy to use that once we set it up, it's pretty easy for you to manage it yourself moving forward. And then based off of the experience people have with us, they then, the second someone says, hey, I'm looking for a new sales tool, or I'm looking for someone to help me with HubSpot, or just recommend the CRM system, I'll get tagged on a LinkedIn post, or they'll just shoot an email over with an introduction. And then I just take it from there. And that's pretty much been everything so far. I don't do any paid ads. I have a brother that works with me who scours LinkedIn here and there to comment on some posts. But other than that, it's really all just word of mouth.
So with that there, obviously you're still seeing so much success right now. One thing that I do hear pretty often, especially on the show and having other founders seeing success in referrals, is obviously the predictability is not really there. How do
Right.
you approach that challenge? What do you think about when it comes to scaling SRO? Are you thinking about ads in the future, or how are you approaching that scaling aspect of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Since I've worked with so many different organizations, I've had a pretty nice front row seat to see how other companies are leveraging ads, how they're leveraging outbound, how they're leveraging different campaigns. And so I have great connections in that space as well. So ads is definitely on top of mind of mine. And to give you an example, one of the clients I had recently started running with ads and they saw a tremendous increase in what they were doing. So I think for the right industry, if you work with the right ads partner who knows how to set it up properly for you, it can massively grow your organization. I'm not currently in a position where I want to grow at that sort of level because I still take on every client currently myself. So I work primarily on a more interactive, lower base scale where I work directly with founders of organizations, their VPs of sales, their VPs of marketing. But if I were to say, let's say, try to scale this in the next year, I would do a couple of things right from the start. One is I would work with an agency to basically take the front end of the lead campaign off of my plate, right? So they would run all of the outbound campaigns. There's a couple of different ones in the market where they basically take everything that you guys do. They'll set up a campaign. They'll run all your outbound emails. They'll have dialers in there. They'll either use an AI dialer or they have a team based overseas that will actually make the calls for you. They'll actually book the calendar appointments if someone could use our service directly on my calendar, right? So then I would know, okay, I have a demo booked with this person. I'll get a little summary about what they want to do. And then I'll actually jump on that call, have the call. And if they're a right fit, I'll close them myself. So that's the first thing I would implement right from the start. The second thing I would look at is then setting up marketing nurture, creating more of a social media brand where I actually talk about these RevOps solutions that you could implement yourself, create more of a presence on LinkedIn. You have a bunch of people in that space, obviously, that do it for general processes. Think about your Alex Hermosi, guys that really give you the influence on an organization. And then the third thing I would do is then I would create paid ads based off of that as well and have those running all simultaneously if I wanted to scale 5x in the next year and a half.
I mean, and just incredible. And this is why I love the show, Chris, is to have a founder of your nature right now, just where your mind is at, how you're approaching these things, what you're thinking about, the moves that need to be made to put you in a position to succeed and scale. Because as you mentioned, being a solopreneur right now, you don't want to take on too much because then it's going to be overwhelming. So
Right.
it's just incredible to hear how you're approaching that. So being that you're on your own, you're a solopreneur right now, really seeing success on that front. What do you think about daily as far as a bottleneck goes for you, whether it is lead gen or converting those leads or the
Mhm.
fulfillment side, being that you're on your own? What's that as far as a bottleneck for you?
Yeah, great. I think if I'm being completely honest, I have two. One of them is definitely reaching out to net new people that might not know about me, right? So obviously referrals are the best source of new business that you can get. They're going to be the strongest conversion, the highest conversion rate. I think everyone knows that, and it's great. So everyone I speak to that comes from someone else I've worked with, it's usually a one call, okay, you know what you're talking about. Can this work for me? Let's get this going. We'll do a small project. And then if it works, we usually go into a larger one or on a retainer model. So the first one is, all right, if I haven't worked with someone that you know, how would you ever find me? You won't, realistically. So that's my biggest bottleneck straight from the source. The second one is, without to toot my own horn, I can't duplicate myself. And I did early on when I started SRO, tried to scale too quickly and didn't have people and then didn't train them up enough. And it really hurt my output. And I take a lot of pride in the work that I provide. And I want everyone to have a great experience. I don't want to be an agency that's just rushing you through the pipeline. I really want to provide value and that you actually get something out of working with me. So another thing there is if I could clone myself and have someone with the same exact experience as me coming in here and providing the same experience to our customers, that would be great. But obviously, I would need to take time to either work together with someone or hire someone and train them up or hire someone at the same level so that we can then make sure that all of our clients are taken care of at the same sort of capacity.
I absolutely love that. And clear as day that you're just continuously thinking of the next step for yourself. So with that, kind of goes right into line of where I want to go here. And that's as far as paint us a picture of the rest of the year, rest of 2025 for Chris, for SRO. Where are you really trying to take this thing as far as growing it and scaling it? What are you laser focused on, whether it's specific revenue targets, impact goals, performance goals? Let's hear a bit about that on that front.
Yeah, great. So I'm actually speaking with an agency to take over my lead generation on the front end. So that's actually why I mentioned one of those things. I've also been speaking to someone on bringing them on board. And as I mentioned, I already worked with my little brother. He's been with me for 3 years now. So I've been training him up to get to a level where he can actually start managing his own clients, whether there are a little bit smaller projects in the beginning and then getting him more involved with bigger things in the back end in the future. I don't necessarily have set revenue targets. What I would like to do is I would like to double our book of business by just doubling the amount of clients that we currently have. The great thing about working for yourself and with yourself is that you don't have anyone to answer to when it comes to revenue goals. So
Yeah.
I can say that and be completely happy with it, and that would be completely fine.
Incredible. So let's get a little hypothetical on that front there. Bring a genie into the room, snap our fingers, and provide you with unlimited resources right now.
Mhm.
What's getting implemented immediately into SRO?
Yeah, if I had unlimited resources, I would hire, I would say, two RevOps professionals. One that's been very on top of the AI world and one that's just worked with a lot of people in the RevOps space throughout their history. And I would bring them on board immediately. AI is changing the landscape so quickly, but also at the same time, a lot of people are super lost and completely confused by it. And a lot of tools are coming out with hypotheticals that would work really well, but the tech's not there yet on their end. So I think that market is wide open right now, but no one really knows how to navigate it besides a select few. And so I think that you're going to see a lot of people that are taking that sort of approach where there's going to be a lot of shifts in organization. And so I think people who adopt AI are going to be huge, especially in the RevOps space, because there are so many different tools. So I would bring in someone that's been playing around with them more than me because I'm trying to keep up, but it's a tough one. So yeah, first two things is I would bring those people on board. Like I said, I would hire that agency to run our outbound for us. And then if we have unlimited capital, since you want to offer it to me, we're going to start running ads tomorrow with an ad partner I know.
I love it. On that same front, then, as you're mentioning, AI is huge, really making huge differences in the space. What are you seeing right now as the future of the RevOps industry and the
Mhm.
evolution that's coming with it? And how are you really positioning SRO to be at the forefront of that evolution?
Yeah, I think like I said, there's going to be so many different options with AI and people aren't going to know how to use it. So I think having someone that's a partner in there that can navigate you through the AI landscape, even just recommending the proper tools for what you're looking for, then being able to implement them and set them up is going to be massive. As I've mentioned, HubSpot is a CRM system that's no code. It's super easy to use, yet most people don't have it set up properly. The same thing's going to happen with AI, right? People are going to see an AI tool, they're going to be like, this is fantastic, but then they're not going to follow through with actually using it moving forward. So whether you're going to have to hire someone internally to be your AI person, or you're going to work with a company like mine to help you actually leverage all these cool new AI agents and tools that are coming out of, you're going to have to pick between the two, same kind of way that you're currently doing it. Are you going to hire someone to run your CRM for the full year? Or you're going to have your VP of sales run your sales team, now also your CRM, now also the AI tools. They're not going to be able to do that, obviously. So I think SRO is probably going to switch a little bit more, getting more into the AI landscape space, because a lot of the day-to-day activity stuff that we'd have to do in a system like HubSpot can now be replaced by us talking to an agent saying, hey, listen, they're trying to build a new pipeline. These are the stages, weigh them this way. If something goes from this stage to this, build this automation. Now an AI bot's going to be able to take care of that instead, but you still need someone overseeing that whole project from start to finish.
Absolutely. No, it makes sense. And just again, incredible having you on the show, Chris, really letting us in to how your mind is working, where you're going, where you're taking this thing, and just incredible seeing the passion that you have for what you're doing. So truly appreciate you coming on the show and really walking us through that. So I want to take us into a bit of a lightning round now before we wrap up the show. And the first thing that I would love to hear on your part, which I have a good inclination, but what's a tool or a resource that you're using right now, whether it is a HubSpot feature, a RevOps strategy, or an AI tool, but what's just been a game changer for SRO this far?
Yeah, so HubSpot actually just launched their own AI functionality inside of HubSpot. It's called Ask Breeze. So what you can do is, if you have a CRM system like HubSpot, you go into the system and it actually allows you to write prompts on what you want the automation for you to do. So let's say I want to make sure that anyone that comes on my website that has a marketing title, that fills out a form or anything like that, automatically gets filtered through to me, and I want to get a text on my phone immediately saying, this is the right persona for you. Call this person. Here's their information. So now I can actually tell the AI agent inside of HubSpot this exact prompt that can then filter through it and give it back to me, versus me originally having to create my own whole workflow, write out all the scenarios. If marketing is entitled, do this and that, it will now do it all for you. So for someone that works primarily with HubSpot, massive let up of actual manual input I have to put into it, because now it can take care of that for me. The second really big one is process mapping. I use a tool called puzzle.io, that every single person I've put in front of absolutely loves the way it looks, because you can actually map your whole process out, what steps are going to occur for each one of the steps that happens. And then also it actually integrates with HubSpot, so you can actually have it directly in between both. So then if you have a new employee come on board, or let's say you've worked with someone like me, but now you want to take it, you want to house it internal instead of working with an agency, you actually have a complete flow of, if someone comes into your system, this is their source. These are all the workflows that would happen. These are the tags they get attributed to them. So it basically just maps out, so you actually have something physical to touch and look at, versus it all just living up in my head, me being able to charge you a fat retainer, because otherwise, if I leave, you lose all of that.
Absolutely incredible. And then just to finish this off here, what is a piece of advice, Chris, that you can offer to our listeners right now? So other founders, entrepreneurs tuning in, either just getting started in business or in the middle of it, and we just want to have that passion, that drive that you have. What can you give them before we wrap up the show?
I would say connect with the right people on LinkedIn, or follow the right people on LinkedIn. I've seen and connected with a bunch, and there's a lot of fluff everywhere, right? Especially with AI now, that fluff's going to get worse, because people can post and create things without even looking at things anymore. You don't even have to have anyone check your post or anything like that. AI bots are doing everything, right? So I think relationship building is going to take a massive step back to coming back to the forefront.
Yeah.
I think people are really going to value when they're going to your website, they're typing in, I have a problem with my order. They don't have to go through 17 different bots, or they call someone, they're not being answered by a robot. People who value relationships are truly going to make big strides again. I genuinely believe this. I also believe at the same time, AI is going to be leveraged for a lot of your day-to-day annoying tasks that you don't need to do. So I think if I can give one sort of thing that I would look at is combine AI where it's right for it, but don't combine it for everything. It's not needed everywhere. It's needed for a lot of things. But if you can add a personal touch and a personal, not asking an AI what personal would mean, I think that's going to make a big difference.
I love it. I love it. With that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Chris, first and foremost, just want to thank you so much coming on the show, sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us. As I just mentioned, it's clear as day how much passion, intelligence, just drive you have for what you're doing. So again, a pleasure and an honor having you on, walking us through that. And we will be keeping up with the success that you will continue to see. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, which I know so many of you have, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also check out SRO Consulting Group at sroconsultinggroup.com to learn more about their RevOps services, and follow Chris on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/Christopher-DeVeter. For more resources and insights, visit closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing systems. Until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next one.